So I think honestly, I truly believe in terms of like work ethic.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna lie. I'm gonna put myself in the top 0.0001%. Like I tried everything and did everything I could possibly do all the time, 1,000 shots, all these things. Yeah. So that happens.
You mentioned something interesting where you talk about the law of attraction, but what you point out that's super important, and I think people can get disillusioned and have gotten. I've had family members get disillusioned, and it's not just law of attraction. It's also in faith-based circles where like speak it, your words are your worlds, think it, your thoughts are things.
Right.
The dangerous part is that if you don't have the work ethic,
right,
you can visualize anything you want.
Exactly.
But if you're not willing to go and do the hard grunt work of showing up 5 a.m. and all that kind of stuff, so there's almost it's almost like, yes, your thoughts mean things. It's important what you think, and you know, if you believe and you're positive, it's gonna help. But that's not that in and of itself isn't it. You have to actually then have the bandwidth to go do everything you did and express it. And so you are maniacal at this point. And I relate to it because this was like 8th, 9th grade. I had a crazy upbringing, got arrested.
Oh shit.
As a kid, like really, really, really bad. And when I moved out here in Vista, 8th grade, I was that. It was like,
8th grade, you moved out here.
Yeah, I moved out here every day, basketball. Like I already smoked, drink, did all the stuff out there. 13 years old, I'm like, I'm going to be a pro basketball player.
Wow.
And obviously that didn't work out, right?
both of us.
But what it did is the work ethic and the mentality transferred over to the rest of my life.
Right.
You know? So I'm sorry, go back. So you're...
And on that too, you know, it's crazy. I even like you said, you talked about the dangers of the law of attraction.
Yeah.
I think another huge danger with the law of attraction is that people forget that like not only the positive things manifest, but those negative things as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think when I was 11, like I remember this, that age, 11 years old is just like the time for me. It was like, I used to watch all these different motivational speakers, you know, Zig Ziglar, E.T. the hip hop preacher, all these people. And I remember I watched something that was like, you know, you got to take inventory of your thoughts. Yeah. So I started taking inventory of my thoughts at 11 years old, and I figured out most of them were negative. Yeah. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I had to change that first.
You're a very self-aware 11-year-old.
I tell people all the time, if they could just, that's why, like one thing about music, I was like, man, if a kid starts listening to my stuff at a young age, they're already far ahead. So it's like, I was lucky enough to find that at 11. So I got a head start on a lot of people.
The interesting thing you mentioned about Zig Ziglar and E.T. is that in a lot of this stuff, so there's like kind of wonky stuff in that world, but then there's also stuff that Zig Ziglar, E.T., the guy that actually wrote The Power of Positive Thinking, which is like one of the first ones, these were all people of faith.
Right.
I met E.T. not too long ago. He's about to come on the pod, hopefully soon. And all these dudes were kind of echoing a lot of the Proverbs, you know, and a lot of that kind of stuff. So if you go back and listen to the audio version of The Power of Positive Thinking, which sounds very like new age, woo-woo. Right. But when you actually listen, bro, it's a full-on like Bible study. Like it blew my mind when I listened through it. And I'm like, oh, okay, some of this stuff is just copying the Proverbs. Right. It's like some of it is just pulling the same principles, but kind of not accurately giving God the credit. You know what I mean?
That's what I feel like. Sometimes I feel like as I get older, it's almost like the law of attraction was like glorified prayer. Because, you know, a lot of it was me getting on my knees every night and praying for those things. Yeah. You know, while also imagining and asking God, like, please help me do this. And, you know?
Right. So you're hooping.
I'm hooping.
And you make it to this Christian prep school. Yeah. Now, did that have, obviously your mother's a person of faith. Right. Did that, but you're also getting beat to go to school. So, I mean, church. So there's also some you know, some good and bad. Did the Christian school
The beating didn't happen too often. I put that in there just to, you know, but
respect.
You know.
Hey, you may not know I make music, but I have a brand new song that just came out. Here's a quick preview.
In a moment, I gotta overcompensate by building tabernacles. Why the world is rubbernecking Eve one in the Adam's apple. Whoa there, why you wanna go there? Time to shut the door cause we letting out all the cold air.
Yo, Double R back, baby. It's not for Rolls Royce, it's for Rap Ruslan. Let's get it.
So hit the link in the description or go to RuslanToTheMoon.com to stream now. I'll see you over there.
Why you wanna go there?
Pivot to music happens because like, so I write that poem and then I write a series of insane poems. Like Dear Alcohol was a poem I initially wrote in college when I was drinking. There was another one about love, God, school, all these things. And then I had this dream one time because I started doing like poetry stuff online and dropping, because I wanted to essentially be like the Drake of poetry. And I didn't want to rap. I was like, I just want to do this. So I have a dream one time because at this point, people start telling me that Tupac also wrote poetry. So I'm like, dang. And then I went to go watch that Tupac movie at this like cheap theater in Wichita at like
which
Town
one?
East.
The documentary or
No,
his life story?
the one that's titled one of his songs, All Eyes on Me. I go watch that one. So, you know, law of attraction. I start thinking about Tupac, finding out he also wrote poetry. I have a dream with Tupac in it. I also had a dream with Michael Jordan in it because I was basketball and now it was this. And it was basically like, if you want to make an impact, essentially you're going to have to put these poems in a song because they have more replay value.
Yes.
So I wake up and I'm like, that makes sense. You know, like people hear a poem, oh, cool.
Yeah. You
But
listen
a
to it one
song,
time. Yeah.
right, they
Yes.
can-
Yes.
So that's when I started. That's why
That's
a lot
crazy.
of my songs.
You had that thought, like you were thinking about, because when we were in the spoken word community, one of the reasons why I stopped doing it is literally what you just said. We couldn't find anyone that could monetize their poetry outside of a live show.
Wow.
So that means that all these guys had to keep traveling, and they still all do travel. The way to make it as a poet now and back then really was to get into the NACA circle, which is the National Association for Campus Activities.
Wow.
College shows. You pull up, do a spoken word set, you make $2-3 grand, and you do 30 of those a year. And we got to that place of doing like 30 a year. But that's really the only way to monetize the spoken word. Whereas what you're saying, well, music has immense replay value.
Right. And that's why a lot of my songs, like early on, even like the Dear Gods or, you know, my She Cheated Again, these were just like long form poems on beats with no hooks. So it was a period where people were like, oh, you can't make any hooks, because I would just rap from the beginning to the end, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how that happened. And I started going more towards music.
Yeah. Now, how did you end up in LA?
So initially when I first went to LA was like 6 years ago. What happened was I was graduating and I was just like, well, this is where people go to, you know, further their career in music. Like it's like, it's like a hub.
Wow. Okay.
But first I was like, you know, before I do that, I want to, like, I need to go there with something.
Sure.
I was like, if I go there with nothing, I feel like it's a very easy place to lose yourself.
Yeah.
So I need to build.
Yep.
So I had a little time frame. I was like, okay, well, I'm graduating. I did an extra semester. Had to do an extra semester because of this whole crazy story. All crazy stuff happened there. I did an extra semester, but that also helped me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you were able to graduate in 4.5 years?
4.5.
I respect.
So I like,
What'd you get your degree in?
communications.
Oh, okay.
I started off psychology. Then it was economics. And then at the University of Montana during the sports class, a guy walked in and he said, communication is the single most important thing you do in life. It will like literally decide whether you're successful or not. I walked to like my advisor and changed it that day to communications.
Got you. So you finish school, takes you a little longer, and you're like, I'm going to do this music thing.
Right.
I'm going to LA.
Right.
And so what is that like, going from elite level basketball, finishing school, and then now you're in LA, which is I am not a fan of LA. And
Right. That's why I
can't
I don't even stay there anymore. It's more just like when I'm filming a music video, like I have my stuff out there.
Sure.
It was essentially, to me, people always tell me like I was an aloof. I'm in my own world. So now I think back on myself back then, I'm like, dang, I was really just out there. So essentially I was like, you know what? This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go to LA. I already had like a little fan base and, you know, supporters going.
Yeah.
I was like, for 8 months or whatever it is, I'm just going to make sure people see me everywhere. I'm just going to I used to go on Eventbrite, look up music events, and I would go to 3 or 4 a night.
Wow.
And just like show face here, go to another one, go to another one, go to another one, just build a little bit of facial recognition.
Yeah.
Like, who is this guy? And back then I had red and blue hair.
Okay.
And I'm sort of tall.
Yeah.
It stood out.
So you were doing the whole like scene, like you were in the scene around the people.
Right. You know, and this is also where like the drinking and stuff started building up, you know, as much more. So I did that for 8 months. And, you know, I think there's this like misconception where it's like everyone goes to LA and their thoughts are, man, if I could just meet the right person.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so you're going to all these things trying to meet the right person.
Right.
So after 8 months of trying to meet the right person, I looked in the mirror one day and I met myself. And I was like, I'm the only person who's going to change my life.
Yeah.
So then this whole thing happened and I ended up writing She Cheated Again, which was like my breakthrough song.
Well, appreciate you, brother. Guys, check out Dax on all platforms.
It's Dax.
It's Dax. And check out To Be a Man. We're going to go over to our Patreon exclusive segment. I'm going to ask Dax two more questions. I'm going to ask, what is the biggest misconception about him? And what was it like working with Trippie Redd and just all of his relationships in the industry? He's been going crazy, if you guys don't know. So join us over there. All right. Hey, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see the full extended version of this podcast, be sure to sign up for our Patreon community for only $5 a month. It'll really help us continue contextualizing the gospel using YouTube, media, and podcasting. And in exchange, you will get full unedited versions of the podcast, of our daily after party streams, a discount for our merch store, and exclusive access to our private Discord server. It's only $5 a month. The link for Patreon is in the description of this video, as well as the pinned comment below. Again, hit the link in the description, sign up now, and I'll see you over there, all right? Peace.